This is the Louie Tee Network.
In the lab room.
10 minutes or less. Miami Dolphins.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on this program, 10 minutes or less, Miami Dolphins. Wowzers. Start that clock. Let's go. Season rewind for the Miami Dolphins. My. What a season it was for the Miami Dolphins. They had so much drama, so many peaks and valleys in this one season. You could have argued that this felt like three different seasons in one. So let's start at the beginning. Dolphins get off to a 3-0 start. And I'm not going to lie to you. I was drinking. I was drunk off the Dolphins Kool-Aid. I was slamming the cup on the give me another one. Get it, fill her up. They would say, hey, sip it slow, man. Sip it slow. I said, fill her up. Fill up the cup, man. I was drinking the Dolphins Kool-Aid and I was drunk. And I was thinking, man, this team is good. Tannehill is getting it. This defense is getting after it. This is a dangerous team. Look out, New England. And then Monday Night Football, two undefeated teams, Saints undefeated at the time, Dolphins undefeated, and the Dolphins showed that they weren't ready for the primetime spotlight. They're blown out on Monday Night Football. Okay, not a bad loss. In the Superdome, Monday Night Football, Saints, tough team to beat on their home turf. I wasn't mad at that loss. The next week, you got the Super Bowl defending champion Ravens into your place. I'm thinking Ravens are struggling early in this season. Hey, prime example of a team that is looking for a win. You're at home. You're the better team, at least I thought. Get a W. Okay, so the Ravens eke one out. I was extremely disappointed in the Dolphins for that loss. But I said, okay, that's okay. That's the Ravens. You go into your bye at 3-2. So I'm saying, okay, this bye was needed because after the 3-0 start, I think they started smelling themselves. They started smelling that deodorant. They thought they were ready for the prime time, and they weren't. And so they lost 2 in a row. Byes at the perfect time. They come off the bye. Here comes the Buffalo Bills, and I'm thinking, man, they couldn't have come at a better time. Dolphins at home. They needed this one. They needed to get back on the track. All right, beat the Buffalo Bills. And they let the Buffalo Bills, with a backup quarterback and a team that hasn't won on the road all season, come into their place, smack them in the mouth, and get a W. That's when I knew this Dolphins team wasn't as good as I thought. And I was wrong. This team isn't ready to do anything. They're not ready to challenge New England for the division. They're not ready to make the postseason. This team hasn't taken that next step that I thought they had taken at the beginning of this season. So I was wrong. So then they find a way after those losses to lose again, and then you look up and they're 3-4. So I feel like, oh wow, you start 3-0, now you're 3-4, so 4 straight losses. Not to mention now the Jonathan Martin situation is just bubbling and rising to the surface. He doesn't play in that Thursday night game against Cincinnati. And so you know there's some ramifications coming with what he's alleging. That's going to get ugly. This Dolphins team is in some trouble. I don't expect you to beat a really good Cincinnati Bengals team, arguably playing their best football of the season. No way you're going to get that win on Halloween. But you do. And I thought that was a season-saving win. But then the next week you go and lose. But then the week after that you win. But I said you lost to Tampa Bay. They were winless at the time. You lost to Tampa Bay. I said, you're done, Miami. You are done. Get out of my face. You're done. And so I left the Dolphins for dead at that moment after the loss to Tampa Bay. They were done. And then somehow this Dolphins football team manages to win 4 out of their next 5, including 3 straight, with the last of those 3 straight wins coming in what I thought was going to be a season-defining win against the New England Patriots at home that puts them at 8-6 in the driver's seat to make the postseason with 2 to go. At 8-6, tied with the Ravens, they simply just needed to win and they were in. And I said, wow, Joe Philbin has done a magnificent, a masterful job of keeping this team together in the face of adversity, all the turmoil, all the controversy. This team is right there on the cusp of making the postseason. And then they put together 2 of the worst weeks of football that I think any team has put together. And look, I'm really being hard on this team because I thought they could make the postseason. I picked them to make the postseason. And for them to play the way they did, I had 2 rants, 2 classic rants. Go back and watch the Week 16 breakdown and the Week 17 breakdown of these Dolphin games. Week 16 against Buffalo, Week 17 against the Jets. I went in on this Dolphins team. I was so disappointed in them. Those are some classic rants. And they finished up the season at 8-8, missed the postseason, and heads started to roll. No more Jeff Ireland as your GM. Joe Philbin, barely by the skin of his teeth, hung on to his job. Let's go to your free agents. We fast forward to 2014. There is a lot of cleaning house to do in Miami. You look at the list of free agents: David Arkin, Austin Splitter, Nolan Carroll, Brent Grimes, Chris Clemens, Marlon Moore, Dustin Keller, Tyson Clabo, Bryant McKinney, Richie Incognito, John Jerry, Paul Soliai, and restricted free agent Danny Watkins. So you look at this list of free agents, and I think you got to start at the cornerback position when talking about guys you want to bring back. Nolan Carroll, I feel like, is starting to get to where you want him to be. I don't think he's quite at his apex yet, but I think he's starting to hit his stride. It'd be a shame for you to let him walk away now after you've endured 4 seasons of Nolan Carroll. To watch him blossom as a football player elsewhere would be a crying shame. If you're the Dolphins, he had 3 interceptions last year, by far his best season as a pro. Don't let him walk away now. If you're the Dolphins, he's a 6'1" corner, long, makes plays on the football. You don't want to let this guy walk away after you've made him into a NFL pro at the cornerback position. I think that would be a travesty and an injustice to the Dolphins fans if you don't re-sign this guy. Speaking of which, you got Brent Grimes on the other side, and he had 4 interceptions. He was the best player in your secondary. You would love to have Brent Grimes back, but at what cost? At what cost? This Dolphins football team has plenty of money under the cap, and with the cap being elevated a whole $10 million over last year's ceiling, you've got over $40 million worth of cap space. If you're the Dolphins, you can afford to bring back both of these corners, and I think Brent Grimes was the heart and soul of your defense last year, made a lot of big plays for you, won some games for you. You need to bring him back as well. How about another guy in that secondary? Chris Clemens. You signed him to a 1-year deal last year to avoid free agency. Do you want him back? I don't know if you want Chris Clemens back, but I think he's a young safety. I think he's playing some good football. I think you need to bring Chris Clemens back. Do you want to upgrade that position? Possibly, but I think Chris Clemens is a solid safety that you could probably bring back and not have to break the bank for him. I don't think you want any other of these guys back other than all of the guys I just named in that secondary. Let's go to team needs and looking at the Miami Dolphins and their team needs. So you look at the Dolphins' needs, and right away, you got to look at this line. Both offensive and defensive. They need defensive tackle help. Paul Soliai is a free agent. Don't expect him back. Think the Dolphins are going to attack the defensive tackle position, and I think they need to do it in the draft. Wouldn't be surprised if one of their early round picks is a defensive tackle. Tell you what, this Dolphins team has a slew of needs. And you start with the offensive line. Dolphins gave up 58 sacks last season, the most in the National Football League, and nobody was even close. The next closest team gave up 50. So you were giving up sacks at an alarming rate last season. And so you need to blow the whole offensive line up with the exception of your center, Pouncey, and start anew. Start all over. You need 2 new tackles, 2 new guards. You also, I think, could use some help at a couple of other positions. I talked about cornerback. If you bring your stuff back, you don't need help at cornerback. But if you don't, then you need help at cornerback. Safety, I just talked about Chris Clemens. You bring him back, you're fine at safety. You let him walk, you need safety help. So if you're the Dolphins, you've got needs on this football team that you need to address. And it starts up front with protecting Ryan Tannehill. If you can't protect Ryan Tannehill, then you don't have anything if you're the Dolphins. I think there are some quality football players out on the market in free agency in terms of tackles. And you could probably draft some tackles in the draft and feel comfortable getting some in the second or the third round. Same thing with guard. You can do some things at the guard position in the draft. I don't think you want to go into free agency looking for a guard. I think you can get some quality help in the draft. And you look at cornerback, I feel like you just need to bring your stuff back. And you need to go in the draft looking for safety help. But I tell you what, there are also some really good prospects at the safety position in free agency, some that can come in and help your football team right away. You hear the clock, you know what time it is. It's been the Miami Dolphins in 10 minutes or less.
10 minutes or less.
Like the content? Want more? Sub up.
In the lab